Okay, now Pete, put the pie down. This book is not going to harm you. This is it's harmless jokes.
Yeah, well, it's not the road crew you're holding, is it? And I don't know. Should I put the pie down?
Well, I mean, pies are delicious. You don't want to waste it.
Yeah. No, pies are delicious. You don't need to throw that at me. I know my jokes are terrible. I'm trying to improve here. Improve.
Unless, wait, were those the cream pies from Eulalia that were just full of nasty stuff? Because if it's that, then yeah, you can totally throw it at him. I don't care.
I'm not doing out of rock creams. Come on. So, fine. I don't want to waste a good peach pie anyway.
Ooh, peach pie.
Thanks, Pete. You're a peach.
Oh, no.
Because I really like peach pies. Yes, I'm Pete. That was Matthias.
I'm Katie.
No Braden or Zach this week, but we'll keep at it. So, we are in book 2 of the Rogue Crew, and I think it's better. We're going to get into, what we wrap in, but it felt more true to form.
There were definitely some more interesting characters that I really felt like an attachment to. I don't know. I just never really felt an attachment to either Ugo or Posey. Posey wasn't annoying like Ugo was, but I was just like, she's just there.
I have some thoughts, and I will actually get into them pretty shortly into our first chapter, but for now, I have generally positive feelings about this.
So starting with our book 2 art, which book 2, by the way, Enter the Rogue Crew, I think that's supposed to be like weasels in an intertwined design.
Yeah, let me pull out my copy of the book.
I will be absolutely no help in this endeavor.
So just like with book 1, book 2 art is very evocative of kind of like how monks used to draw a glyph artwork as part of like old books. So the first one was hares. Mm-hmm. This one again looks. I don't think it's snakes. It doesn't look snaky, but it's definitely like weasel or ferret.
Best way I can describe it, it's a square that's been bisected into left and right halves, and each half is a mirror image rotated 180 degrees of the opposite side. So just looking at the left side, you see two bands, I guess, intertwining, going from left to left and right to left or right. And at the top are what look like heads. Actually, you know what? They're probably otters. They have kind
of that would make more sense.
Yes, because first book had mainly hares. We got a lot of otter action in this one, and the book's literally entitled The Rogue Crew.
Especially if the big bad is a rat, instead of a ferret or weasel, yes, that's clearly otters.
Yes. So, and in these bands, there's a lot of intricate, like, Celtic knotwork and swirls and things like that make it all fancy and decorated and illuminated text stuff.
I'm wondering if Brian basically how much free reign Brian gave the artist here, or the publisher did that. So, or if they had a design already in mind, the artist just made it live. So,
interesting.
But beginning proper, this covers chapters 13 through 25. So, chapter 13 begins. It took me a bit to figure out what I was looking at with that artwork, honestly.
Oh, and before I forget, interesting note is that last book, we ended at page 131, or started the book here at page 131, and we end on page 262. Exactly double.
Well, in your page counts anyway.
Yeah, I mean, first edition, but for all intents and purposes, book 2 is exactly twice the length of book 1.
Yeah, that's uncommon. Normally we see, like, most of the Redwood books we've seen, like, the 3 parts are mostly even, But some of them, like obviously the first book, very much not. So.
Wait, I just realized. I think I misspoke. What I meant to say, I'm trying to say is book 1 and 2 are the exact same length because the pages work out to double. Sorry, English
No, I
hard.
followed you.
Yeah, I got it.
And speak bad or English words.
No.
Anyway.
You didn't fail English. That was impossible.
Oh, no.
So, that said, into Chapter 13, it took me a while to figure out what we're looking at. And just so you know, for Katie, what we're looking at is basically looking up at a ship deck above us with a hole in the roof. So, but I don't know, my brain took a while to put it together. But our Chapter 13 begins proper with our two hedgehogs being confronted by the big bad. And he's like, "You're a Redwall creature. I won't harm you." Uh-huh. Sure, buddy. Tell me your name and your name of your friend. And Go can't speak. He's too scared.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, which I don't blame him.
I don't blame him either. I find it interesting, though, that the very first sentence is, rigid with fear, Ugo wilted, quailed under Razadwerit's evil eye. And it's like, quailed instead of wilted? Really? The pun was right there.
But yeah, it's basically Ugo. This entire bit is learning him. Just shut up, man. Like, I get your, like, when you were just afraid from fear, or silent from fear, it worked a lot better for you, but no, when he starts talking, it's just like, he will not shut up when he's scared.
He seems like a very young kid to me. Like, some of the heroes and heroines lately have seemed kind of a lot more older and mature. This guy, either he's very sheltered, which is possible, or he's very young, like 10 or 11 or something.
I think there's also some elements in there where he feels very personally about Redwall, his home, even if, at the very beginning of the whole book, he was getting in trouble for something he shouldn't have done. He still loves his home. He loves it a lot. And I think there's some elements in him where his fervor for his home, his sense of possessiveness over his home, can't stand to hear the vermin, say anything negative about it. So they effectively bait him into responding, and he walks right into it because he's got no self-control and no street smarts.
Apparently. But not when the first time he's literally been out of the Abbey is this adventure. I mean, we don't know overall what kind of survival training Redwallers are put through. But I'm not sure, would you want to train them to know how to get out of a situation like this? Where you're confronted with people who may intend violence upon your person?
Yeah, I don't know. That's super interesting, because obviously there's something going on outside. That's not how I was going to end that sentence. Obviously in Salamandastron, they kind of have to, because it's like military. And the rogue crew, I'm sure they get trained in like how to cut people apart when they're, babies, because that seems like something that they would do. But yeah, with Redwall, I'm really not sure. Like,
I mean, you don't want to scare kids, but at the same time, you want to give them the abilities to stay alive. So
there's Bella on her motorcycle. Hi, Bella.
So Posey has a lot more backbone, and I like her. So they basically Posey gets kind of snaps like, "Oh, he's not from Redwall." "Yeah, I am." "Shut up," kind of thing. And they get it out of him, and it's more like it basically Ugo ultimately refuses to direct them to Redwall, and well, I don't care about this. Off with the rope storage for you. Like, shouldn't we put them in the brig? No, the rope storage. It'll be fine. But the brigs no, I said the rope storage.
Right.
They toss them two down there.
I do want to get on a soapbox very briefly here.
By all
And
means.
I'm going to say something that I think some of our listeners, and maybe even the two of you, might not agree with.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say it anyway. This interrogation scene is why I don't really buy the argument of, oh, vermin are just misunderstood. They need to be given a chance. Sure, we see a number of individual vermin throughout the series that are capable of displaying empathy or some shades of empathy to Woodlanders. But in this scene, we see that that's just not how Razid and his crew operate. And outside of Shekra, the vixen seer, who, is obviously going to be the one with the most nuanced sense of interpersonal communication, they go by what we see as basically standard throughout the series. The vast majority of them just, well, when given the opportunity to at least quote unquote pretend to be empathetic, to try and coerce some kind of information out of their prisoners, instead they don't.
We do see that a rare case, though, later on with a completely different character, but we'll get there.
Yes, absolutely. And I even point that out in my notes. Now, I'm not going to make the claim all vermin are bad, but I find, when I see the discourse and I see people's fanfic where it's like, oh, they're not bad, they're just misunderstood. It misses the point in my eyes. Because it doesn't portray the vermin as what they are, first and foremost, self-serving to the detriment of. So,
come to the dark side. We have cookies. I get it.
I'm not against people having their opinion that, Redwall needs to have lots more great characters. I could definitely see how that would be an interesting story. It's just not how Brian wrote them. If we get more Redwall content that's new in the future, we might see that. I mean, we just covered, the video game, and we saw that with having a, vermin healer and his family, of which his daughter was just as great as he is. The son, not so much.
Mm-hmm. I mean, look, as much as we, that's going to drive me nuts. What's the one from Bellmaker that we like to cite? Thank you. As much as we like to cite Blaggett as probably the most positive exception we've got, he's an exception. And if any fanfics writers out there, if you want to say that, vermin are misunderstood, fine. Address the systemic issues that would put them in that spot. How many of them do that? I don't think that many.
Right.
I'd agree with that.
And it's also...
Go ahead, Katie.
I mean, people just don't like... And I mean, it could be just people don't like Jake's style of writing, but he doesn't do a lot of gray character. I mean, he does... especially toward the end of the series, he had a lot more gray, quote unquote, good characters. Like there was the hedgehog from the last book, the absolutely wacko hedgehog, from Sable Queen. There was a couple of evil squirrels, a couple of evil hedgehogs, but all in all, like he doesn't really write like that. If you're looking for a complicated anti-hero character who is on the good side but has some problems, like that's just not how he writes. And if it's not for you, it's not for you. But like that's sort of what you have to kind of expect in the series.
And I think other big thing that this plays into is you can tell if you've read a lot of like medieval / like early Industrial Revolution, like fairy tales and folk tales. They all are lessons that is like, okay, the good guys will, either win, or if they don't win, ultimately everybody learns some kind of lesson except for the bad guy. And I think Brian was very much influenced by a lot of folktales, particularly the ones about animals, because the animals are archetypes. And I mean, we could probably do an entire episode just discussing contrasting old folk tales with Redwall, and I'm not going to get into that ginormous subject.
Here's the short version. And don't get me wrong, I'm actually an advocate. Like, this series could be great if you full on address the core issues and add gray, but at the same time, Brian didn't write it for me as an adult. He wrote it for children. And Brian is very much on the Tolkien side of fantasy. The genre is called fantasy. Yes, your good guys are good, your bad guys are bad. Not everything has to be dark George R.R. Martin Game of Thrones.
Yeah, you don't necessarily need to be, Batman brooding up on top of his bell tower, just, it's all so dark and depressing.
I'm just thinking of the epic rap battles of history here of Tolkien versus Martin, and what was it? Martin's criticized. You can tell what's going to happen by page in Age 5, and Tolkien's response is, the genre is called fantasy, you myopic manatee. So it's just like, yes, yeah, it's called fantasy. And I've soapboxed about this before. I'm actually backing Matthias up here, folks. My frustration, as I've said repeatedly, is just that when you get used to that adult literature that takes a greater spectrum, this can be frustrating.
Mm-hmm. But I think, and my final point will just simply be, if you look at the roots and inspirations that Brian drew on to, say, this is what inspires me to be a storyteller, a lot of those roots are very much in, this very early style of, folk and fairy tale where, yeah, good guys will always win. There's going to be, some kind of moral lesson involved. And the animal characters fit into human-based archetypes. Rats are almost always going to be evil because back when these stories were written, rats were evil. They got into grain. They didn't do anything beneficial for mankind. They spread disease. They generally were out-of-control nuisances. Look at the Pied Piper. Classic story. Rats are the villains, just as much as the Piper himself.
I mean, the whole reasons cats domesticated themselves was because we had a lot of prey around our stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Simply put. Anyway, back to the story.
Tangent.
Over.
So, yeah, they get interrogated and they get tossed down the rope storage, and I'm sure they won't find their way out. And Ugo even debates, like, what can I tell him? Like, I'm sitting here like, direct him to Salamandestra? But, I mean, maybe he wouldn't be that... To be fair, I don't think Razzie would be that stupid.
Yeah, I mean, they've been there.
Yeah. But...
Later on in this, literally points out to his companions that, yeah, I don't have a clue where Redwall is. John Gertie was the one that was directing where we were going. And I put the note down, but I'm going to say it here. If you don't know where it is, why not say, I was traveling with somebody. They knew where they were going. This is my first time out of the Abbey. I can't help you.
Because he'd probably killed for that. Ultimately.
But at this point, we've already shown he doesn't have a lot of street smarts, so...
No, he doesn't.
Yeah.
The direct answer is like the sort of thing he would do.
Now, what I do find interesting is that in the rope storage, because that's where they are, instead of the brig, assuming they have one, they basically encounter the recent repairs back from the not Starscream all the way back in Section 1, including burnt wood, and someone left a chisel down here. You got a chisel.
Secret tunnel.
Oh, God, no, because that would imply, love lights the dark here, Matthias, and I don't like Ugo enough to want that ship to happen.
Oh, successful troll is successful, even though I didn't admit it.
But ultimately, yes, they've got a tool to get loose, and I'm sure, that this will work. Oh, and they also were in the rope storage, so they can take rope with them.
Yes, this is not a very good idea of the crew here to put them where they can so easily escape.
Yeah, and basically they knock a guy out, but where did they get? Did they build this raft? Did I read that right?
I think they find a bundle of arrows, the giant ones that they shoot off of the huge, like...
Right, the ballista.
And, yeah, they take those and just toss them over and jump with them. And then that wakes up one of the guys that's on watch.
Yep. They actually show some smart, like, actually keeping it themselves right next to the ship, because they realize if they get basically are been seen, the vermin are going to know where they are.
Right.
And when they're stealthing around and finally break out of their, secret tunnel, it really feels like some moment, stealth segment of a video game where they're just trying to, like, sneak. Oh no, the guard saw me! Flail! Oh, okay. He's done. Okay. I'm safe.
So ultimately, our two hedgehogs are on a makeshift raft just next to the boat, and insert the Jaws music here, which I can't because copyrighted, but the sea rose around them as something huge and black displaced the water. It had 4 shiny humps and several fins. Moreover, it made the most awful noise.
Palm!
Spoilers!
I deserve that.
No, you do, but I also appreciate your humor.
That's probably the time you've ever said that to me, and it'd probably be the last.
Write that down, Mathias.
So chapter 14 begins us with clearly the Long Patrol and...
How anthropomorphic are they?
How anthropomorphic are they? They are literally in uniform. With spears, swords, and backs. Like, on 2 feet, there is no question they're on the anthropomorphic side. So, I mean, that's kind of expected at this point. The series has definitely been moving more towards anthro since we started. But there will be a feral one later on, and I'll point that out when it comes up.
Interesting.
I also want to say, we ended last book on a bit of a cliffhanger with the Long Patrol being harried by pygmy shrews and lizards, and now we can resolve all of those cliffhangers.
Yes.
And because... go ahead.
Especially because that dinner party they had was top dollar.
I thought that's where you were going.
It was.
How many people are going to get that Homestar Runner reference?
So basically the hares are just like, nah, we're pygmy shrews and sand lizards. We're going to charge you. And Queen Dawinka's horde flees in disarray, end quote.
Mm-hmm.
So, and there's freaking a black hare wielding dual claymores. Good God. I know I said that last time, but worth mentioning again.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they're like, okay. And basically they've taken the queen hostage. And she's taking it well.
Oh, yes. Very
Absolutely.
calmly and dignified.
Yeah, very, very demure. Okay, I can't say that with a straight face.
And her husband, I'm going to lose that incredibly loosely at this point, is also a noted, I won't say prisoner, but he ain't a guest either. So, because he was helping the long... Long Patrollers here too.
It's like he's a willing accomplice / prisoner.
Good. I like that. Accomplice word is good. Because this marriage can no longer be saved. That is clear.
Yeah.
I was recently re-listening to one of our old episodes of Rackety Tam, and the joke was made about how Uvis and Digity should have been given a divorce. This even more so.
Yes.
Yeah, because not only is Emperor King, whatever his real name is, because he's just called Emperor King this whole time, not only does he implore the Hares to stick things in his wife to get her to move,
yes.
he offers to beat her if she slows down. And the Hares are okay with this.
I mean, we'll kind of find out a reason why in a bit, but at the same time, it's like, that's still kind of rough.
A
Not
bit.
sort of you normally expect from a Redwall book.
No. I mean, we've never, short of like our hate couple, Vermin couple, all the way back in Bellmaker, I don't know that any couple is straight up threatened to hit and visit violence upon each other like this.
Well, there was Lady Caltag and what's his bucket? Ricophilus.
Okay. Noted. Yeah, there was them. Yeah, they basically, they're holding the queen hostage. They know they're not going to be overtaken, essentially. And the Hares are just like, well, let's just hold on until we can get out of here. And I love this. There's nay a creature that can live in that can outrun a Long Patrol hare. And if there is an African version of Redwall out there, I can imagine there's a cheetah looking up like, yeah, sure, whatever.
Oh, fair. But it looks like the Long Patrol's going to have an absolutely lovely day out at the beach today.
Yes.
Apparently. But they basically get the Hares back in motion. They're moving as a unit. And I want to make sure that I got this right. Was this where Bribs took some darts? Yes. So we're told that young Hare Bribs he has a few darts sticking out of him during all of this.
Poor guy.
And at first I thought this was just going to be tranquilizer darts, because we all know Brian's a fan of knocking people out for funsies.
Yes.
Oh no.
Trolls.
Oh no. Bribs is dead within a few minutes.
And it specifically says that he's got a father back at home.
The thing that really made it a gut punch is, like, even though we just kind of only know a bit about the character, we don't really have too much of an emotional attachment. No, you feel for him, because it's like, okay, no, this is just slowing me down a little bit. I'm doing okay. So they put him down to rest. They turn away to, like, shore up some sand to make, like, a trench. And they turn around and he's dead now.
Yep.
Bad way to go.
Yeah.
From where I don't think it was a particularly painful poison, but still.
Yeah, I think it was just numbing, but still, I mean.
Yep. And we'll see how well the Hares take to this in a short bit here. But Queen Dungweena's horde is still following them, and she tells at one point, it's over, rabbits. Rude. Surrender or die. And I love the retort. No one asked for your comments, Marm.
Yeah.
Now, we're having none of that. You don't know us. You don't know what we do. You are about to find out, though. Enjoy the show.
Right.
Yeah, it just makes me wonder, like, these pygmy shrews and sand lizards have been living basically in the shadow of Salamandastron, at most a day or two's journey. How the hell do they not know the reputation of the Long Patrol?
And even beyond that, we're going to find out here in very short order just how brazen and presumptive they've been up to this point.
Right.
There's one group on this continent, at least landbound group. We'll get to the sea one later. You do not want to make mad. It'd be the Long Patrol Hares.
Yes, and the Badger.
Yeah.
Yes. The big very typically angry badger with scary glowing red eyes that tend to, oh, I don't know, go on murderous rampages when you mess with their soldiers.
No
Right.
wonder they put them on drugs, just to keep them calm.
Do you have your blood rat buddy?
But yeah.
Oh, we're gonna have a great rumble today.
So ultimately, yeah,
Punch. Sorry, I could not help myself.
your audio broke up. We didn't hear you.
Oh, sorry. I said, rubber, rip it, roll it, and punch it.
Even the Emperor King calls out at one point, the rabbits, rude, have lost one of their youngins. They're out for revenge. It's like, yeah, you done messed up, guys. And we're also told that the said queen is afraid of the sea and the lizards can't abide salt water. Useful
Right.
information. Ultimately, it's a standoff. Like, the pictures and lizards know if they come in, they are going to die by the dozens, if not hundreds. The hares are pissed. Neither are the hares they're trying not to initiate combat either. And, hey, does that sound like otters to you?
Very tough otters.
Mm-hmm.
We finally get the true rogue crew introduced. And it's the Sea Otter Holt from earlier. That has been mentioned a couple of times that sent Razid packing the last time. And we don't get Score Axhound initiated. We actually get his kid,
Yes.
Rugged Axhound, who, oh, good lord. This guy, I like this guy.
He's very tough.
Yeah. He's the oldest son. Apparently there's a younger one running around, which we'll meet later.
Yay, I love him. Anyway.
So, and apparently, not only are the otters would have to be aware of Salamandastron and hares, but they know some of their names just from stories from Dad Axhound, who's not back with the main troops here. So, Ruggin Axhound points out to the shrews once the otters arrive, what gave you right to war upon the lands of my fathers? You're living here only by the grace of Scoraxhound, the mighty war chief of the high north coast. Where are your rulers? And I can't imagine someone just pointing behind him. Oh, well, that's convenient.
Yeah.
It's one of those moments where if this was a comedic family CGI film, you would see the collective Pygmy Shrew Sand Lizard group just gulp all at the same time.
Yeah, they would. So, short version here, folks. Remember, this Pygmy Shrew colony lives a couple of days' distance from Salamandastron. They also live within decent short distance from this Otterholt, who basically view the land the Pygmy Shrews are on as their territory. And they're just allowing the Pygmy Shrews to take residence. And the Pygmy Shrews' long-term plan from their noted queen is to steal females out of tribes.
Yes.
Did the sun just bake her mind on the dunes?
Yeah, I think that the power just went to her head, and we're going to see here, immediately, that Ruggin knows not only that both of them are supposed to be ostensibly in charge, but they also have a really tumultuous relationship and don't care for each other.
Clearly.
So it's I have to wonder just how much of this back and forth relationship, henpecked husband trope led to the destabilization of the region, just because she thought she could be in charge. So she was like, okay, I'm just going to do this now.
So basically between the otters and the hares, they they get the shrew groups to cower and basically serve them straight up food. And it's just like, huh. Okay, so you're not going to initially kill us? Okay. And we're even... Go ahead, Katie.
I was going to say, and he just picks a random shrew out of the group and a random lizard is like, you guys are the rulers now.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Promotion. Wait, this means that I have to make the decisions. I have to make the scary Otter happy. Oh no.
Yeah. Moreover, he straight up threatens to behead the king and queen here. But I mean, it's a meaningless threat. They have no intention because apparently they miss obvious winks between Ruggin and Nightfur, and I'm like, okay, fine. But I mean, don't get me wrong. If the Long Patrol wanted to push the issue over their dead member, they totally could have. Ruggin even offers this, like, yeah, I know one of your hairs was down. Do you want us to have a reprisal killing of the shrews? And they're like, no, the Long Patrol does its own slaying. Dang, that's some steel right there.
Yep. I kind of like this, though, because, and I'm not saying this is a bad thing, but usually with Redwall, when two groups of good creatures meet each other, they're like, oh, we're immediately friends. And you can see when these two groups meet, like, they're not unfriendly, but there's a little bit of, I don't even want to say tension, but sort of misunderstandings about how each group works. And sort of, they have to kind of work those misunderstandings out between them to get closer as friends.
Oh, there's going to be a bigger misunderstanding yet to come.
Yes.
You're absolutely right.
It's not out and out animosity, but there is this element of both sides being like, I'm representing my culture here, but also my ego is on the line.
Right.
And I mean, a little more so ego from the Otter side, and I'd say that the Long Patrol hairs, well, that's there to some impact. A lot of it is just, hey, we're the more structurally rigid and rules and regulations type, so we have to be the quote-unquote responsible ones.
Thankfully, they give Briggs a send-off, and I appreciated this part.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't get too many songs in this section. I've noticed that. It was 5 total. And I forgot to write this one down. Okay, so it's more than 5, but forgot to write the funeral songs down. But man, it's respectful. I'll give them that. There's a hair dirge and an otter dirge.
And the otter dirge is pretty creepy.
Yep. And we also get Kite the Slayer, one of the other otters. I like her.
Yeah.
And she's basically like showing off her shield has tick marks scored, like she's cut into the shield around the edge. Show how many people she's killed. It's significant.
Right.
And it's even asked out loud. I wonder how many your chieftain's slain. No one's bold enough to ask.
Right.
And this kind of got me because it was like, if it's a genuine like interrogative of, hey, how many do you think you've killed? Why should that require bravery? Maybe I'm just not warrior enough to understand.
No. So as their two groups get to talking, they're like, the hair's basically telling them that, oh yeah, Razid's back. Oh, we didn't kill him? Oh wait, we get a second go at him. Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, and Jum Gertie's, which makes me happy.
Oh yes.
Even if Jum learns that his uncle's kind of dead.
Yeah,
Kinda.
Which is terrible timing. And
Yes.
I mean, I can relate because I had an uncle die recently, so.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
I know the feeling of, ow, that hurts.
Right.
Yeah. Also, Grima Wormtongue. Oh, sorry. No, bad notes. Gromtum is revived like, hey, you have a prisoner. Ooh, what can we do with him? And the otter's like, yeah, can we question him? And Cumdrum's like, I told the rabbits all I know. Rude. But
Yeah.
I'm only a simple crew piece. Yeah, let's just talk. Guys, give us 5 minutes with him. So I'm sure that won't come back to haunt us in any way.
Definitely not.
I mean, if we're making such statements, why would we have any reason to be facetious or sarcastic?
Because it's this podcast, that's why.
Yes.
So,
Being sarcastic? Never.
So how does chapter 15 begin, Matthias?
Oh, that's right. Palm.
Get it out of your system.
There. But, the scene definitely gets my approval.
Did you say seal of approval? Because I didn't hear seal out of that.
Not, you said it.
No, I'm not choking you with the power of my mind. Shut up.
I can't believe that actually worked.
I thought your audio broke up again.
I did too. Yeah. But the seals are more than happy to help. The hedgehogs get back to land. Chapter 15 art literally is a seal grabbing a rope, presumably from this makeshift raft, and tugging it to shore.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't get outright. It's not spelled hom. It's more home. It's HOM is a lot what we're given.
I prefer
It's
hom.
definitely the
Oh, yeah.
onomatopoeia for, a seal making seal noises.
Yep. So it's like, hey, the vermin have realized we've escaped. This may have gone wrong. And they're shooting a bow and it missed. Oh, okay, we'll be fine.
But wait, they're still coming after us. Ah!
Yeah. So, and then the seals decide, we gotta mess with this ship because it'll be fun.
I love the
It's
seals.
So good.
I don't know if they're just trying to help out their friends or they're just doing this for giggles.
Both A and B.
Yeah. The seals essentially,
They take the trout for a spin, literally.
Yep. They find a line from the ship and begin spinning the ship in circles. And they also throw seaweed up on deck into people's faces.
Whee!
And yeah, Razin is not taking the fact that his captives are gone very well, offering a keg of the best Addersting grog to the one that gets him first. And a couple of sea rats jump overboard once they get close enough to land to basically swim and get on board, and they don't resurface.
They had a case of the hom.
Yep.
Yes. A fatal case of hom.
Yes.
And like I said, the seals are having way too much fun with this because the Seer Vixen is about to reply when, quote, when a bunch of wet kelps slapped her in the face.
Whee!
It's so good.
I can make sushi with this, right? So our two hedgehogs make it back to land, and they're just like, gotta go fast. But they are not Sonic. Not even close.
No.
But they do quickly run into a new party, and I wasn't sure how to classify these guys at first. They're still neutral when I do my episode breakdown. Heroes, villains, neutrals. Neutrals, not because they're all really quote unquote good beast groups, but we'll talk about more in line. But just we have a new party on the field here, including it's a spread of species, but we also including squirrels, hedgehogs, otters, the like.
Yeah, there's a little bit of everything that's not like hares or badgers.
Yep.
Right.
And they do assist our two hedgehogs to get them away because Yeah, they don't. At least they don't want them to be recaptured by vermin and rats, and I get that.
And there's a baby hedgehog who is kind of a jerk.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's also. At first, I was considering if this name was worse, but no, it's not. It's better than Mouse Babe. I'll give it that. But
And it's
Wiggles,
a she.
Wiggles the hedgehog.
Yes, and I like it because usually the baby who's a jerk is a male. This time it's a female,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of fun.
And they take Uggo and Posey and bring them back to their hideout, which is a secret house in the bushes.
You know, it's funny you bring that up because that's basically where I was going. These are hippies.
Mm-hmm.
It is a completely neutral party, neither loyal, they're not exactly explicitly on Red War Salamander's side, but they're not armed either. Which, given how dangerous Mossflower Country is, at least in this book, not exactly where I would recommend. But no, they are basically nonviolent.
Yeah, they're pacifist woodlanders, which is kind of hard to pull off when there's vermin literally everywhere. Which is why I assume they have a hidden hideout.
Yeah. Not exactly Jet and his freedom fighters there, Matthias. So,
I mean, did they die?
it's really unclear.
Yes.
So, but yeah, they basically take the hedgehogs in to hide them in front, and we have quote unquote gorse flower honey.
Does not sound very appetizing.
No, it doesn't. I mean, this is a thing. Like, honey will take properties on the nectar it comes from, and like some of the highest grade honey is like made from orange blossoms, and it is a noted thing for honey that's made from, shall we say, psychotropic flowers is noted to give bears a really good trip when they raid for it. Mm-hmm. And heck, even my local Aldi's, I saw honey made from like pepper flowers. It was a hot honey. I didn't buy it because if I'm putting honey like in my yogurt or whatnot, I don't want spicy there.
Right.
But
yes. I actually chance a couple years ago through work we did a program for kids on like beekeeping and how beekeepers work and whatnot, and the local beekeepers they brought in also brought samples of honey so everybody could try. I had a chance to try like a couple different varieties of like wild honey. The thing, it had some really great flavor. I didn't like the texture because there was pollen in almost all of it, so it was gritty.
That's bee bread then. It for those that don't know, in the short version, how they keep worker bees from becoming queens is that they mix pollen in with honey for food, and that suppresses workers from becoming queens. Whereas queens eat royal jelly, which makes them queens.
Now I want some bread with honey on it. Anyway.
But yeah, I did look. By the way, gorse flower is a real thing. It is a full-on Europe plant, and it can be used in salads and teas, but it's usually when it is harvested, it is kind of a livestock feed. It's also incredibly aggressive, apparently.
Okay.
Also goes up very easily in forest fires. So
nothing that we'd like.
No.
No.
So I guess because we never see like except for maybe the original book or two, we don't really see apiarist beekeepers as a regular thing, even if they have access to honey.
Yeah, it's more of a one-off, like singular character does this as a thing. So, I mean, the one that I think of outside of the first book is Blood Apis. And she was absolutely off her rocker. So who knows what sort of honey that she'd been eating that may have contained some of those mind-altering substances that made its way in.
That would make sense.
So, this hippie group basically, you met the Woomers, their word for the seals. And this adds a running gag. It's weird. But they asked if the Swiftho, who, by the way, spoilers, but Swiftho is the younger son of Skorax Hound.
I like him a lot.
This starts off a running gag where they add higher level vocabulary as a joke, and then everybody starts using it in creative ways. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is a thing?
Yeah, it sort of kind of felt like, look, kids, these are some fun new words.
Don't get me wrong, I've actually, and this is just my personal theory here, like kids' books and comic books especially, I genuinely believe there's people in the printing industry that add higher level words and then provide immediate context based on the sentence in common, like maybe tween and teenage media to increase people's general vocabulary.
Absolutely.
I have definitely observed that growing up.
I observe it now. I mean, I get to see a lot of new and original, different concept graphic novels added to the collection at work for both teens and tweens. Sometimes I'll just be shelving something that's like, why have I not noticed this one before? There was one I took notice of like a year and a half, 2 years ago. It's a teen graphic novel about a guy that starts participating in underground spelling bees. The book is called Buzz, by the way. If anyone's looking it up. And the way that it communicates, spelling, because you're already reading, but they have the spelling done phonetically, which really gives you the sense that somebody is spelling it out. And it has kind of like this anime tournament arc vibe to it. I don't know. It seemed pretty cool. So I would absolutely buy into the publishing industry trying to subliminally increase the vocabulary of readers.
I don't know if I'm right, but it's always been my thought, because I can remember reading comic books, seeing a word, I'm like, what does that mean? And then you read the sentence, I'm like, oh, okay. And I retain these words all these years later.
They did their job.
Yeah, apparently. But we get some extra words here, lackadaisical, bottlenose, which, dolphin, pestilent. I'm not sure about that. Thank you. But yeah, these words keep coming back up like as jokes later on. So don't get me wrong, I think this has been well established. Everybody who's ever been on this podcast likes some good wordplay. Some more than others.
Clever do you mean? Blink, blink, blink.
So I think Brian was just having fun here.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, come on, the word curmudgeon is like one of the best words.
Oh gosh, yes.
Such a fun word.
Basically, yeah, our hedgehogs are with this hippie group, and that it's a short chapter. So, but the most entertaining thing was the seals just having fun.
Yes.
But chapter 16 begins, and we actually finally see like the scale of the wheels that are mounted on this ship, and they look straight out of something like out of a medieval set piece, which but like a giant round wooden wheel with one of those pegs in the middle with its two poles on either side, but they're big. Like, these things are based on, I guess, we'll presume rats next to it. In the artwork is like 7 high, rat high.
I would say, yeah, somewhere between like 6 and 8, somewhere in there in height. If somebody wanted to do pixel measurements, they absolutely could. I don't think that's necessary. But if you can imagine like your house, like if you live in a 2-story house and having a wheel that's like matching your roof line, peak of your roof.
Wow, that's bigger than I thought they would be.
Mm-hmm. Like if this wheel, if the area of this wheel on its side had like a wall built around it, you could use that wheel as a roof and have a room that could comfortably sit like 8 to 10 for a meal.
Mm-hmm. So, basically we're back with our vermin and be like, okay, I guess we're gonna have to go landbound with the wheels to find our prisoners. So it's a darn good thing, man. The wind keeps doing exactly what the vermin want. Yeah, they're still basically dealing with the seals at this point. But when we finally get back to our hippie group and they're like, yes, we should probably run away from the vermin, but no, we're not going to run towards our base because we don't want them to describe. I'm like, they get it. Okay, you may be hippies, but you get it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I put in my notes, running away from the guys that want to capture you. Good idea. Not running towards the place where your allies are hidden. Great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. And good thing the ship comes with an all-wheel drive, huh?
Actually, more like 4-wheel drive.
Yeah. So, we're vermin. There is a moment here where I'm like, okay, did they mean that? Because vermin kind of like indicate that, oh, we're not having bird or fish tonight, and I'm like, what?
Yeah, I can never really tell. Like, I mean, obviously, if
this isn't Gulo, where it's explicitly said for us.
I was gonna say, obviously, if this is Gulo, I'd be like, oh, they're totally not joking. But yeah, I don't know.
Hold that thought, because when we finally meet Score, I want to come back to this topic. But
I'm not sure if there is implied cannibalism, but I'm also not sure if it's implied cannibalism. I do mean that in the wordplay sense, but I'm not meaning it as a joke. Just, it doesn't go one way or the other. It's not very ambiguous.
Yeah. But, yeah, the all things considered, we'll come back to that topic later, but the ship, meanwhile, is not exactly doing very well. And I wonder if Vermin AAA exists.
Yes, except I think it would exist for solely this one ship, because there have been no other wheeled ships in the entirety of the series for Vermin.
Yes.
Yep. So ultimately, yeah, the Vermin are trying to chase Goodwood, and they end up right in a swamp, and the ship, as we're told, breaks through the quote-unquote marsh crust and sinks bow forward into the swamp.
Yes.
Hence Vermin AAA.
As this was happening, I was just like, yes, 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 yes. Made me so happy.
But they're just like, huh, that's not good. Let's back up the ship because, we don't want to sink the boat in the swamp.
Good plan.
And they lose a couple of crewmen to sink in the swamp. Like, when I read through this, I realized later on I should have been keeping a counter of just how many red shirts Razzie loses, because it's a lot.
And he does not care.
No.
Yep.
Like, by the end of this, we're going to be we need to bring up just how bad of a boss he is. It gets much worse from here, folks.
Like, I think if this was Plug Firetail, he would actually kind of care about the crew members that he lost.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Or
He'd be
Clog.
funeral with, hey, here's some grog for everybody. We'll drink to the memory of our lost mateys. Here it's just like, no, keep going over the bodies. I don't care.
Right.
Like, even Clooney be like, dude. And as a reminder, Clooney kind of laughed when one of his own fell off the cart and got crushed by the wheel.
Mm-hmm.
But we will get there because Razid reaches a point where I'm just like, oh no. We're also introduced to not Captain Snow. It really felt like that.
You went Captain Snow. I went not Warden of Marshwood Hill.
Probably more accurate here, honestly. But the Warden was just... We all know that the Warden of Marshwood Hill was acting what he is perception and quote the law. Captain Snow was just trying to eat. Mm-hmm. And this new one, this Marsh Hawk, or... Maybe not Marsh Hawk. It's a bird who is like... I'm really hungry, and this hippie group is looking tasty, but, vermin will probably taste better, so I'll help you out. Mm-hmm. Harrier. He's a marsh harrier.
I love how they kind of joke with him. Like, oh, we're not good to eat. No,
And I don't think he has any intention of actually eating who clearly are their allies.
Yeah, it's clear that they've had connection before, and this is more of a, like, formality of, you know what, I'm going to make sure that I scratch your back as long as you help me, with mine, and everybody gets to walk away here happy with the results.
But here's the thing, Posey's not convinced that he's joking about wanting to eat them.
I wouldn't be either. I mean, if I was face to face with him.
But ultimately, the Vermin's plan to get out the ship out of it is to basically rope a big old tree and use that as their haul point. So, and by the way, in that little bit of a trunk is an entire colony of mosquitoes.
Goody.
Fun.
Insert the sound effect of Yzma being beset by insects here. Really. Because that's what comes to mind every time this happens. Like, vermin just get overwhelmed by insects. I just hear Eartha Kitt scream. And I love that movie.
It is a fantastic movie.
But yeah, they eventually slowly get this ship out. Not easily.
Yes.
But the time they do, the people they're chasing are long gone.
And going with the whole, I don't want to have that happen to me. Doesn't one of the crew members end up getting crushed by one of the wheels? And Raz, no, just keep going. Don't worry about it.
Oh, yeah. And it was also the same one that had the idea to use the tree as a lever to get the ship out. So.
Yep. I mean, it's one thing if you weren't just going to kill the regular mooks there, big vermin, big bad, but when you start killing your specialist staff, that's not good.
Ashleg would not approve.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, I'm thinking in the Hellgates here, there's all the vermin who are gathering around, like, taking bets and taking notes, and Clooney's just like, man, is that how I was acting? What a jerk.
Gabul's sitting there like, man, that guy's mean.
And I can even see Upper Oblaz of all people being like, I mean, I didn't really like my guys, and, we were constantly at each other's throats, but, at least I didn't do this.
Did I hypnotize some people into jumping out of a window? Yeah, but I mean...
Who hasn't done that?
Right.
Unget's like, well, not hypnotize, but...
Engaged in a little quote-unquote unpremeditated defenestration.
Yeah, and then basically he's figured like, oh well, our res is like, well, we're missing ours. Let's get some trackers. Do we have any trackers left? Anybody? Find me some trackers. And you find these two random guys. He's like, goody, you're our trackers. Go find the hedgehogs, bring them back alive. You hear me? Alive. But he also says, like, the two trackers, like, what about all the people they were with? Quote, slay them, roast them, do what you want, just fetch me the hogs. And that's leading my more uncomfortable. It's like, is he serious?
I wouldn't put anything past him.
No, I wouldn't either. And, yeah. And Raz is also like, if Uga won't talk, I'm going to make his little friend cry. That'll loosen his tongue.
Ugh. Yeesh.
Yeah. Yeah, I like this guy less and less. Like, some Vermin can be fun, and some are just straight-up magnificent jerks, but I'm not saying he's scary. I'm just saying he's a really bad boss.
Yeah.
And he then, to wrap up the chapter, is like, basically, tell me what you see, Vixen. And she's like, trust me, mighty one. 'Twill be all you as you desire and more. The omens never lie. And all I could think to myself was, Shelka doesn't want to get wheel hauled.
Oh, no. Okay, we're using that from now on. Wheel hauled.
Yes. I as soon as I thought of it, as I was doing my notes, it was like, this is too perfect. I have to make this one.
So, Chapter 17's art basically spoils from what we're about to see later in the chapter, but the Gotham are back!
Mm-hmm. And they're having like a little musical party.
What I'm kind of, like, don't get me wrong, I can believe drums, so that's kind of a weird thing for a nomadic tribe to be carrying in their longboats. I mean, like, 2 full-size drums, like, straight out of a symphony, that's weird. But maybe. And bagpipes and an accordion certainly make more sense for nomadic people. But a full-on cello? Where does one get a cello in Mossflower?
I have absolutely no idea.
I definitely think the Log-a-Log is kind of a theater kid.
Yes. Yes, he is.
I have to wonder if, one of the other, like, random, roaming acting troops didn't trade the Gaussum for it in, exchange for something that they couldn't get their hands on, that the Gaussum could. Just like, oh, you want one of these? Sure.
And, I mean, we know, Swiftio, who remember, son of Score, he's like, oh, Gotham, I know who they are. And Ugo's like, oh yeah, they visit Redwall Abbey sometimes. Their leader's called Log-a-Log. And we get a full-on shrew song, just like literally in the next sentence. Because the shrews are not difficult to find, they're just playing music out in the open. And here's the thing. Remember what I said the artwork was depicting instrument-wise. We have 2 drums, a flute, and a fiddle. There is a large difference between a cello and a fiddle, which is flute and bagpipes. But okay, I'll take it. But our Log-a-Log didn't just take the Log-a-Log name, he kept his original name too. Dandy Clogs.
It's an appropriate name. Kind of
Yep.
dandy, and he wears clogs.
Huh,
Right.
Wonder where he got those.
I just always think of the song in Triss about kind of making fun of the Gaussum shrew who wore shoes. I'm like, well, now there's another one that wears shoes.
Yeah, my first thought too was Poodlecumter, but Danny Claus, my second thought was, that sounds kind of like Santa Claus, and now I want to see him deliver
Oh,
presents to behavior.
no.
With say none of the shrew babes, because as we all know, shrew babes are literal terrors.
I kind of wanted to make a Marshing joke, like the Gotham got all the way east, and it's like, huh? What do you suppose those old rotten shoes are for? I don't know, but I'm gonna make a copy of them. So yes, the Gotham's just like, oh, Gotham like, oh, for Mudwall, huh? Yeah, we can take it back. Sure, it's fine. We've been by Redwall a couple of times. And I even asked Swifty was asked, like, why isn't your Log-a-Log carrying a blade? Because he can murder you with those shoes.
Right.
Yeah. You ever heard of a boxing hair? Well, this is your first time meeting a dancing shrew.
Oh, and apparently shrew beer is very alcoholic. Very high ABV there. They don't actually straight up identify. Ugo doesn't identify himself from Redwall, but the shrews immediately know how that he's from Redwall. And Danny kind of shrugs. There was just something about ye. I guess, good guess. And it's embroidered on your clothes. Apparently, not only are the Gotham well informed, they also know that the Long Patrol and Road Crew are on the march. And Jum's alive. Yay!
Yay.
Hey.
But yes, the shrews are like, yeah, we'll take it back to Redwall. Why not? I mean, food, after all, why not?
Because Redwall.
Right.
Yeah, because Redwall. Speaking of, we're finally back to Redwall after all this time, which just like, huh, oh yeah, Redwall. Like, this is actually kind of refreshing because compared to the book Salamandastron, where Redwall's plot was basically intrusive, like, Redwall's barely featured in this book. At least this section of it.
Mm-hmm.
And we've finally been learning, guys, it's the first day of summer. That means all the story so far has been in spring. I know this is unusual, but yeah, we're finally in summer.
There's this little acknowledgement that some of the Dippins aren't old enough to have experienced all 4 seasons, or at least remember them.
Uh-huh.
And I think great little touch. It makes the world feel a little bit more alive, and the characters feel that much more well realized.
Yep, I think it was really cute that he it was the recorder, right? Was trying to talk to them about summer.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like not getting it at all. Like, it's a very nice day out. Yeah, but do you know why it's a very nice day? Because it's a very, very nice day out. Like,
any conversation you've ever had with a 2 or 3-year-old of just like circular logic all around.
right.
Ugo had that weird dream, and then we had Martin sending his messenger.
And roasting them hard.
Oh, and here's the exact words. Martin's just like, hey guys, you got problems coming.
Oh, we got trouble right here in River City.
Who among us would doubt the word of Martin? Hey, are we sure this was Martin and not Goff? Good point. Ultimately, yeah, they're like, yeah, maybe there is something issue. I have one issue with the Abbot. He's just like, we might be facing a vermin force coming on. We've definitely had this in our history and prep for this. So I'll do the sensible thing, and this is sensible. Let's put some more guards up top. Although you don't regularly have guards up there. What? Like, that would probably be a good idea anyway. But we're not going to worry the kids or most of the Abbey with this. We'll just take some sensible precautions. I'm sitting here like, hey, shouldn't we send a rudder to Salamandastron? Nah.
What can they do? Fight?
And, it's not like they've literally saved us multiple times right when the vermin were about to win.
I think it is supposed to be a long journey, though.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we go back to Mossflower, that took them basically the entire season to get to the mountain.
Right.
Oh, and we finally get Martin is making his presence known with another possession. And I think he possesses the gatekeeper, the Jum Gertie's sister.
Yes.
Still a terrible name.
It's an unfortunate name.
Yep. So she, while sleepwalking and basically being possessed, Darker reaches up, takes a sword down from the wall, because, the sword's on the wall, next to the tapestry and spins it. And, make her spin the bottle joke here, but that's not what he's trying to do. But Martin through Dork is like, look to the blade, by point ye must take, where winds will bring evil in their wake. For good beasts arriving, I bid ye wait. They bring aid on day 90 is great. 2 warriors that day will answer the call, the most unlikely creatures of this all. And God, Martin, I swear, if Uggo is one of those 2, I'm going to be incredibly disappointed. Make Posey one of your chosen is fine with me.
I say nothing.
Better be Swiftio the Otter.
I have in my notes, Martin's latest message seems clear enough, though knowing Jake sounds a lot like it will be one of the 2 unlikely creatures to be warriors answering the call. I will not be surprised. I don't blame you, Pete, for not liking the idea, but I won't be surprised.
I mean, a lot of these novels are someone growing into responsibility. Fine. I just don't like Uggo.
I'm saying nothing. Because I know how it ends.
Spoilers.
Spoilers. I'm not going to spoil it this time.
Yep. I mean, that's what I'm anticipating. It's going to be freaking Uggo, but I can hope it's Posey. So, chapter 18 begins with this massively swole otter as the artwork. Probably our Axhound. Dad Axhound, anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Daddy Axhound.
Oh, and they Cundrum's like basically being brought back to the Long Patrol. It's like, hey, wait a minute, I thought the otters had taken him for questioning. Yep, and about that, McGree's just like, so the otters couldn't get anything extra from him that we didn't already know, and they're about to kill him. And I'm like, no, could you not? And they're like, nah, we want to kill him, and McGree beat the crap out of both of them.
I love Sergeant Nigger here. He is amazing.
The boxing hairs always are.
Mm-hmm.
Not only, I mean, you may be allies with the road crew, but wow, you just laid into them, huh? But to be fair, don't get me wrong, I get the point. This was the Long Patrol's prisoner, not the otters.
Mm-hmm.
If the situations were reversed, I imagine the Long Patrol would be like, yeah, maybe we don't kill him, but, you do you guys. And he's dead. But yeah, Score Axhound is finally catching up to the main group. But before he does, his son does not take the idea of his otters getting knocked around very well. He's getting like very hot over the cowern, and Rugged's just like, I'm gonna beat you back up. And Mickery, I love this part of Mickery where he doesn't even like lay a hand on Rugged at all.
And he's even talking to Ragnitfer as he's fighting. He's like, this is a chieftain's son. I could get in trouble for this. And he's kind of ignoring him at the same time. It's like dodging him and being like just chatting away.
It kind of reminded me like straight out of the last scene of the first Matrix movie where Neo is just like blocking with one hand Agent Smith's blows. Just like, what? Oh, you're trying, huh?
And the thing I like about it too is not only is he dodging like by a, no pun intended, hair's breadth, but he manages to coach Rugged through, okay, this is what you're doing. This is your bad form. Stop doing that. And Rugged's just so ticked off that not only was this hair ignoring him, but it's just like, now you're talking down to me and disrespecting me too, and make me more angry. And then he ends just completely wearing himself out. And just when he's about at his limit, who walks in but Daddy Score himself, basically like, what up?
Oh, was that going on? Don't mind me, guys. Just let my son, figure this out.
It'll be a good lesson for him. It's just like, yes. And so Ragnitfer calls for attention. Everyone, including Sergeant Mickery, goes to attention, to which Rugged gets in a cheap shot on Sergeant Mickery, who then is like, you shouldn't have gone for my jaw. You should have gone for my gut, like this. Boom. And leaves Rugged doubled over on the floor. Mwah.
I'm okay. The Harris can be really entertaining sometimes.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
And Score's just like, well, I really wish I had finished Razadov for good, but second chance ain't so bad. So, yeah. But where do you think he went? I mean, he didn't come after us. He didn't come after the mountain again. Where do you think he went?
It's a mystery. A real puzzle. A riddle, you might say.
There goes Bella again. She just keeps driving by here.
She misses being in the story.
Yeah.
So, yep. Basically, the two groups meet up in proper. We found the Sea Otters are very much more ruthless, which, fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
They're Vikings at this point.
Yeah, they pretty much are. So, what am I missing here? Anything?
Rugged takes the whole boxing with Sergeant Megari to heart and accepts that, yeah, he was beaten pretty good.
Oh, I need to bring up my other point that we touched on earlier but didn't address too, Lord. So yes, the vermin kind of indicated, and I can't tell if this was just psyching themselves up or genuinely mean it, that they were going to eat the quote-unquote prey beast creatures, the quote-unquote woodlanders. And it's really hard to know which way they really mean, because sometimes we see this in other books where they're clearly not serious. They're just blood rage, so to speak, psyching themselves up for battle. Here's where this point becomes, I'm not sure that they may actually be serious about that, because Score X-Hound has basically a cloak made of, quote, vermin hide.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh. Viking indeed, because that is a quote-unquote good creature who has literally killed off a bunch of vermin and then turned their skin and fur into a cloak.
Yeah, you don't want to mess with this guy.
No, you don't.
It's like how some more... I don't remember specifically a Viking thing, but there were definitely some very brutal raiders from back over 1,000 years ago that would take body parts from their slain enemies and wear them as ornamentation.
Yep.
Not pleasant stuff.
Fun times.
And as they're discussing this, like, where's the ship gonna go? Knight, our captain, is just like, oh, they're not gonna go at a second go at Salamandastron. You don't know that, because the ship itself didn't. You didn't have a true direct confrontation with that ship, other than trying to snipe your boss from the boat.
Oh, she was fine.
Yeah, she was.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a very real chance that, and we know Raz is not going to do that. We know he's ultimately going for Redwall. Yes. But there's no evidence to suggest that they won't take another run at the mountain here, other than just hair ego. So we know that as the audience that they're not, but Raz is just like, Nightfairy, you can't assume that.
Yeah, I think both the hares and the otters do have a lot of ego going on. I was sort of comparing the Rogue Crew Sea Otters to like Skipper and the Redwall Otters, and it seems like the Redwall Otters have a lot less arrogance to them. And I'm not saying the Rogue Crew are bad; they're just a little bit more I don't know if arrogant's even the right word. They're just very, they have a lot of rules and they're a little bit more harsh.
Yep.
Whereas usually Skipper, depending on what book he's in, is just a big old teddy bear who likes to play with the little kids, you know.
Until you make him mad, yes.
Oh, yeah. No, you don't want to make him mad, but...
Yep. Then remember what we were saying earlier about Vermin, being crude in their interrogations, and maybe someone should try honey instead of vinegar?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we get that. Lone Hedgehog is found not terribly far from the ship because Rad, after he dispatched his trackers, took the ship back out to sea to clean it from all the swamp goo, which can't blame him on that because it apparently permeates the entire ship and you can't get away from it. Yeah. So they're cleaning the ship. Fair enough. But the Seer Fox wanders off and finds a random hedgehog who is crab hunting. Little crabs, not the big ones Golf dance with. And she finds a random hedgehog, and the hedgehog is, well, I won't say he certainly starts off as distrustful. She wins him over with some faint praise and honey here.
Yes. And this is exactly what I was talking about at the beginning of the episode, because she uses guile and presents herself as affable and manages to manipulate him into willingly giving up a certain amount of information. So she's like, oh, you can be of use to me. And then runs on ahead to basically say, okay, everyone, be on your best behavior. This guy can get us what we're looking for. And hey, boss, maybe keep a lid on that temper of yours.
No, fine. But she's basically like, hey, if you were nice to him, he might just give us what we want, and you won't have to torture him. Oh, fine.
I respect the hustle. She's crafty. I hate her for it, but I respect the hustle.
Right.
I mean, she gets out of him, have you been to Redwall? Yeah. You know where it is? Yes. Would you be willing to show us? Maybe.
This poor hedgehog, though, he seems just like sort of a very old alcoholic.
Thank you, because I was going to make an Ambrose Spike joke eventually. So.
No, Ambrose Spike would never have given Redwall up.
No, as an alcoholic, not giving up Redwall.
Oh, he absolutely would have drank whatever they put in front of him.
Right.
He wouldn't have given up Redwall. He probably would have frustrated them to no end. He's just like, but you don't know what you're talking about. I
love this October. Let me sing you a song about it.
I just have this image of Ambrose Spike, like they keep putting things in front of him, and yes, I'm not trying to make too many jokes about alcoholism here, but he would have basically like drank the entire crew under the table and be like, lightweights. But yeah, they basically bring the old hedgehog Drogbuk,
yes.
Back to the ship. They give him food and drink, and he drinks himself essentially unconscious. Blackout drunk.
Yeah. Unfortunate name too. Drogbuk is not a good name.
All of the Wiltuds seem to have unfortunate names, except for one that's coming up later.
Yep. But yeah, it's basically the captain you could just hear the captain getting frustrated, like, okay, tell us where Redwall is, and he's passed out.
And not only is he being kind of unhelpful, he's like, yeah, gotta give me food first. I need to finish eating. But then he also insults Rezzed, which is like
kind of entertaining.
I can't say I feel particularly bad for him in the moment. You're playing with fire, dude. You're playing with fire.
Yeah.
The chapter that comes to an end, they're just like, when he wakes up, he'll tell us. So, or, it's going to get ugly. Chapter 19 begins, kind of, the artwork implies it's night, and there's a bird in flight looking down But it follows the two trackers who have started up a fire, and yeah.
The trope of those two guys.
The wild and crazy guys. Yep.
Something tells me they're not making it out of this chapter alive.
Well, one of them anyway. And, yep, the two of them are, with the Ricker of the two, he's just like, they're basically like, how are we going to get these two hedgehogs to come with us? Like, yes, we can go in and throw ourselves at the group they're with, but there's only two of us, and maybe we'll play the full-on child catcher from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, and my ear is gone.
Yep.
The Marsh Harrier just ripped it from his head, the Sir Colo.
He's definitely not joking this time.
Nope. And, yep. And then, Ricker the Ferret is not having a good day because he loses his ear, and then the bird takes him completely. Bye, Ricker! And we're even told that blood spatters his partner as he stares upwards. Huh.
Fun!
Remember,
Ferret gave it an unearthly yell, is what we're told next.
This book series is for children.
Yes.
Yep. And he's just like, I gotta get out of here. And he runs, basically leaving all of his supplies behind. Just out of desperate, absolute fear running. And runs right into the Gossam, who, not only that, but Log of the Gossam, who used his clogs to knock him unconscious, but good. It's a bad night for all parties involved, apparently.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Oh, it's going to get worse, too. Because he's like, does anybody recognize this guy? And Ugo's like, oh, yeah, he was on the ship with Razid Weret. Razid Weret, you say? Why didn't you tell me any of this sooner? I forgot. That's not a good reason. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Where are they going? They want to get to Redwall. Okay, everyone pack up. We're going to Redwall now. Immediately. Chop, chop.
And you can blame the hedgehog for it. At least that's what he should say.
Yeah, and he's feeling bad about it, but he's also feeling bad about it in kind of this self-centered way that reminds me of Orkwill for a little bit. And I fully expected well, it sounds bad when you put it that way to come out of him.
Yeah, I can forgive Ugo forgetting about it because he's been through a lot, but why didn't Posey mention it?
I was just going to say that. Like, why didn't either of them say something? Like, I think Dandy is a little bit unreasonable in his anger, but he has a right to be mad. He's just a little bit like, just like a shrew, he kind of has a very short temper, and he's like, you guys suck. I don't want to talk to you anymore.
Yeah, so, I can't feel bad for either Ugo or Dandy in this situation because they're both kind of justified. But I feel less bad for Ugo.
Yeah. So Vugo, by the way, the ferret who just got clogged in the face, or was that a rat? I don't know. Vugo, he wakes back up and just like, So it's just like, so you're going to answer my questions or we're going to, do bad things to you. He's just like, sure. But seriously? Yeah, my captain's a jerk. What do you want to know? So it's just like, they're like, maybe we should. And Posey, and I'm not convinced that Posey isn't playing here. Because at first Dandy just gives her a big old wink like, oh, you should turn around. This is anything for a maid to see. Like, he's not actually about to torture the guy kind of thing. And then Posey plays, quote-unquote, along. Quote, if I was you, I'd tickle that scum with that hot blade first. Show me mean business. Like, what? Posey, I know you've been through some trauma here, but oh my.
I repeat, I code Arula.
Yes, this is where I was about to go with Arula here. And I can't imagine Vuk was like, wait, I said I'd answer your questions. What's the problem?
We just want to make sure you give us the right answers. Wait, dude, I'm really sure you guys are the good guys here?
Kind of a are we the baddies moment.
Yeah.
But yes, this is where he's just like, wait a minute, you didn't mention that there's not only is Razid involved, he wants to go to Redwall? That seems pertinent information, kid.
I forgot.
Everybody knew that one kid who's just kind of a simpering wimp that just kind of like forgot and didn't really want to take responsibility for their actions.
Yep. And Martin, you picked this guy. I think you might have made a mistake.
Martin never makes mistakes.
Sure, let's go with that. Okay, well, Martin doesn't make mistakes after his death, maybe. He made plenty when he was alive.
Right.
The Gosum are now night paddling, which, oh man. I mean, I know they have lanterns at the front of the longboats, but there's a reason, like, one of the, like, at least, again, Missouri River culture here, you don't swim outside of, like, lighted pools at night. And certainly not alone. But taking longboats onto a river with current at night is a bad idea. That just shows you just how, like, the Gosum are like, oh, crap.
Mm-hmm.
And we get a Gosum paddling song, which is awesome.
Mm.
Never a bad thing. We go back to, which group is it? Long Patrol and the Rogue Crew. And they are trying to, this is completely like male machismo here. They're trying to outdo each other in how well they can march and how far. Like, oh my god. Why aren't the officers stopping this sooner?
Yeah, it's insufferable is what it is. It's just like, you got the otters trying to be like, no one's tougher than us. And you got the Long Patrol that's like, we are too disciplined to give up. And neither side is willing to give any quarter until both Captain Rake and Score are finally able to very graciously allow each other the chance to stop. Only for Captain Miggery to prove again that he's once again the best, because he's one of the few that's like not out of breath. He's like, yeah, I'm cool, I keep going.
So they finally get him to relax because, but not before. Not before a Long Patrol song. Yep, because marching song, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Just one that Captain Rake wrote, no doubt. It said, we're told it. And then you get the Otter song, which is incredibly more Viking in tone
Yes.
and tenor.
Yes.
It gets cut off because it's clear this is going to be bloodier than anything Captain Bladedale Frunk could have written.
Yeah, literally, there's one point where she's literally going, blood, 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 blood.
I now have a taste for blood.
It's like, wait. Are you telling me that Otters wrote this and not Kulo? What?
Oh, there was a point before where the shoes were paddling and they were getting a little grumpy with the hedgehogs because they didn't understand how the paddling worked. And so this bigger shrew was kind of mean to them, and Swiffo stood up for them. But at the same time, he was like, hey, don't mess with their paddle, and you, shrew, don't mess with the little kids. Like, Swiffo was kind of being their mentor type person, which I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah, the moment, I couldn't feel too bad for Ugo, though, because it was one of those things where it's just like, you can tell he's trying to make up for his mistakes, but he ends up making more mistakes in the process. It's like, dude, just stop trying.
Right, but I mean, that big, tough shrew shouldn't have bullied a little kid either.
Fair.
Yeah, they kind of finally, they basically start putting it together because they're trying to track a ship as best they can, because they know it can go either land or sea. But they're like, hey, what about the River Moss? Isn't that another option? And doesn't that lead basically straight to the Abbey? Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that's where he's going. I mean, they finally put it together because, vermin logic is vermin logic. But, yeah. Redwall would be a softer target, wouldn't it? Than the mountain or the otters. So, and in the meantime, they lose their little Grime and Wormtongue from them. No one notices, like, it's a full-on, like, no one is looking at him, and he's just like, okay, bye.
Right.
He just takes off.
Mm-hmm. And he's likely to be, because, again, I don't remember how this ends, but he's likely to be the only vermin in this book to avoid any kind of retribution. And he should definitely be sending Sergeant Niggery a thank you card or something for saving his life.
Right.
So forget a pirate's life for me, more like a quiet life's for me.
Oh, that would be hilarious after this is all over. Niggery's all the way back. Salamandastron, you got some mail. Huh. Oh, right, that guy.
Yeah.
Wait,
Like,
where did we lose him?
I don't think they ever mentioned him again. They just totally forgot about him.
I mean, he's basically pulling an Ashleg, which is fine. That's fine. I mean, his character was kind of useless at this point anyway. Because even if he had make it... Because eventually the Hares and Otters will confront the big bad. Sure.
Mm-hmm.
But what use would he have been at that point? Yeah, I mean, this character really couldn't have done much more other than just be invariably a shield against someone's arrows. Chapter 20, and man, this episode's definitely going longer than I thought.
We've tangented quite a bit.
We have. Chapter 20 begins with the shrews suffering from mosquitoes or something similar. And the bad guys have found the river. And compared to when, if you remember, the Wood ship had to literally use its oars and oar crew to go up a river, which is going to have current towards the sea instead of against it. The ship finally goes upriver. It's got the wind, and the wind is enough to counteract the current. Huh.
Well, currently anyway.
They wake up their very hungover hedgehog friend. Yeah, he's very hungover.
Hair of the dog.
And he's just like, can I have some more grog, please? This is where I was just like, oh, he has a problem.
Yes.
He definitely has a problem. And
I don't know if this was supposed to be like comical, but at a certain point it just got.
I wasn't laughing about like, oh.
Yeah, it just gets kind of sad after a while because like this is clearly a very ill old creature who is just. I mean, he's got issues, and I really hope it wasn't played for laughs because I mean, alcoholism is a thing. It's real and it sucks.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if it was played for laughs or meant to be serious, but I can basically guarantee this is probably somebody Brian knew at some point in his life.
Yeah.
So ultimately, he's just like, fine. Finally, he gives away basically how to get to Redwall. Go up the river to the fort, and then it's basically pretty short from there. Like, okay. So log in the meanwhile, as they have gone through the night and into day, they get through flies and it stinks, and it's just like, someone who had an insect phobia as a kid, I just cringe every time we get these scenes.
Yeah.
I currently have one of those, and it's just massively unpleasant. Even if these were just harmless midges, it's just, ugh.
Yep, and basically we know that we're told the Gossamer using a stream to get to the moss. So, river moss, rather. Yeah, you know what I meant.
Yep.
And there's one of the shrews there whose name is, and this is an awful name, Dolrags, like Dollrags. Rags, doll rags, and it's like, your mother did that to you?
I think Jake was really reaching for names here.
Yeah, you could say that.
Ultimately, yep, we keep following along. We get more paddling songs because it's fun, and apparently Dandy can't sing to save his life.
Yeah. He has a singing voice that only a boiled toad could enjoy.
Yep. We get more food porn. There's been some very minor food porn in this section. We still haven't had a Redwall feast, so, we haven't reached our normal threshold.
Which is surprising, but, it has to come at some point. No Redwall book is without one.
Yeah.
Right.
So the Gosam's whole job is, they are paddling through the entire day, and their whole thing is, we want to be on the moss by midnight. Because I'm sure that won't be an issue.
No, nothing. Nothing could go wrong.
Yeah.
Ultimately, they get to the moss by midnight, and they basically, they don't put the, do they put the, I was trying to think, do they put the longboats, on the bank or, on the river still?
Across the river, right?
Yeah.
Just
So they're lashed together, and here comes the bigger ship.
Yeah, this kind of reminded me of Vilu Daskar in Legend of Luke. Just ramming.
But at the same time, also the Jaws theme going.
Yep. Because, and here comes the bigger ship, and they're going to prey on all of these sleeping shrews, and no one thought to, post a sentry?
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, the vermin are about to attack the Gossam. But, meanwhile, we go back to the Hares and Otters, who are still keeping the march, and the Otters ask, hey, can we use the river to scout ahead? And they're like, yep. And it quickly becomes just like, huh, those are Gossam shrews. That's not
those
good.
Those are corpses. Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh dear. And they do find some survivors, and they're just like, so yeah, this giant ship came down upon us, and it was a bad day.
It was a terrible, horrible bad day.
It's a terrible, horrible, no good day. He gets it.
Yes.
I never read that series, but I know of the title.
I have to get one or two literary references in there. Otherwise, I'm not the library employee I ought to be.
Yeah,
there you go.
So it's just like, okay, crud. Well, we need to definitely figure out how we're gonna get there. And oh, hey, it's the hippies. Literally, they come in, and the hippies are basically the medical corps falling in behind the army because they started like, yeah, we'll take care of the wounded. You get off and going. Oh, have you seen my son? Yeah, he was with the Gossam.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure he's fine.
Wait. I apologize for this. I should feel awful. I do not. Secret medics on the river.
No, I kind of expected something like that coming. Our hippie group's like, yeah, we'll take care of him. It's a very, it's like the shortest chapter we get. We're into 22, and it's clearly a ferret looking down at a spear that I would say with admiration. It might be a family heirloom that he doesn't want to give up. Right? So, we're back with the vermin. It's just like, well, that was fun. But the wind's gone, and while they're anchored so they won't, move with the current back towards the ocean, they're like, how are we going to keep moving? Well, let's break out the oars. So, okay, the wind's gone. Yep, and meanwhile, a couple of a couple of members of the crew get arrows and slings upside the head.
What slings and arrows of misfortune?
All right, Hamlet. And they're not really sure where the heck is this coming from. Our big bad's just like, show yourselves and fight. Yeah, like they're gonna do that.
Yeah.
But they threaten their hedgehog, old hedgehog guy, and it's just like, if you don't stop, we're gonna kill him. Who the heck is that?
Yeah.
Do we care about this guy? I don't know.
It's not one of us.
But yeah, it's enough to get whoever
I
is throwing those arrows and stones to stop. But meanwhile, hey, what happened to our hostage? Oh, we jumped overboard. Oh, well, we lost our hostage, but at least we're moving now.
And then, well, suddenly they're not. They're moving, but they're not really in control of where they're going. And they need another rudder.
Huh. How are we going to fix the rudder? Well, take a crew and take care of it, okay? Yeah, sure, boss. Well, the pin's gone, and this is what usually mounts the rudder. But we have a spare rudder. We just need a spare pin. Hey, that's a nice bronze spear. Yeah, it was my dad's. Don't you like it? Yes, mine now.
Yeah.
That's my spear. Yes. And it's now mine.
Your spear is now my spear. But why is it your spear now? Because I'm the captain. You wish to take it from me.
Well,
No,
first
sir.
officer in this case, but yes. And it's like the first officer, he's like, that's great, because now even bronze doesn't rust, so we won't have problems with the rudder pin in the future. I just feel sorry for this guy.
Yeah.
Like, that's a family heirloom, and it's just like, not anymore, it's not.
Yeah, definitely not the most likable captain that we've had. Like, even like I was saying before, some of the vermin crews we've had have had actual loyalty between captain and crew. Like Clog and Plug Firetail, they actually seem to like each other.
And curiously enough, I noticed one thing. The vermin crew know the difference between a river and a sea otter. They call them, what do they call them? Water dog and wave dog, respectively.
Mm-hmm.
And fine, I grant you most sea otters have different fur patterns and probably would look a lot different than river otters. How in the heck do none of these vermin ever identify hares different than rabbits? Ever.
I don't know if they do it on purpose just because it annoys them.
I'm thinking because they probably fight otters more frequently than they fight hares, because as we've pointed out, hares don't really have an active navy. But, otters are literally aqua-ready creatures. They swim very, very well. So if you're going to be fighting someone as a vermin pirate, what woodland species are you most likely to encounter? Otters.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm guessing they would acquaint themselves pretty well with the differences. It's kind of like how they always call shrews like river mousey.
Yep. And they don't just straight up call them a mouse.
Yes.
But moving on, there's just like, yep. The whole reason the rudder stopped working was Swiftio is not only alive, thankfully, so is Uggo and Posey and a couple of the other Gossam. This was basically a stalling tactic.
Yeah, I like Swift a lot. He's just so sort of fun and playful, but also serious when he needs to be.
They know it's only a temporary problem. And apparently Dandy lost his clogs.
Sad
Yes.
days.
They will be avenged. So they also find Drugbuck, and it's just like, oh, yay, they found Drugbuck. It's like, I might have given them directions to Redwall. Oh, great. Another hedgehog not helping us out here. But Drugbuck does make up for it. He's just like, I might know a shortcut to Redwall. It's just, it's got some minor lizards, snakes, band of foxes. Oh, sounds like fun. Actually, no,
Well-
we're told the shrews actually cringe at the mention of snakes.
Which I love as a nice little nod to the very first book, and is like I think there's still some generational trauma from Asmodeus.
Yes.
I was going to bring that up, yeah.
Also in Doomlight, we saw too that the shrews were especially afraid of Ballas.
So, I'm sure that this shortcut will be fine, right?
Everything's fine. Nothing
Everything's
could
awesome.
go wrong. Everything is awesome when you're part of a team.
Chapter
Everything-
23, on
Living
the
the
other
dream.
hand. I'm sorry, you broke up?
Everything's cool when you're living the dream.
Okay. Chapter 23 is on the other side of how anthropomorphic are they, because we have what ends up being Wiggles in a tree, but they are not wearing anything. No, they're not on two paws, they're on all fours and looking down. Yeah, I mean, this is the other side of feral, but I can only claim that so far because this is a baby in a tree.
Yes, and Wiggles is being a right terror, and well, pretty soon Wiggles should have the name Dangles instead.
Yeah, we're actually with, we're following Jum and basically, was it Jum, the hippies, I know, Fortune, Free Paws, treating the wounded shrews, and yeah, this is Wiggles. And Wiggles is threatened to get down here now or I'll scalp your behind.
And Wiggles, of course, is like, no, Big Otter has to come up and get me. And it's like John was saying, I don't know how to climb trees.
I'm an otter. What do you want from me?
That was my fault. I taught her to climb until Fuber goes up, grabs Wiggles, brings Wiggles back down, then takes some bandages from the medical supplies and literally ties Wiggles to a low-hanging branch, so she's just dangling there.
You know, I can't help but think that there is a lot of other annoying toddlers that this would have worked on too.
Yes. Well, something got in my throat there.
No, I heard it.
No, it's, just I had some latent disgust and irritation get in there. I couldn't get split.
From the sinuses, I know.
Yes. I'm allergic to bad characters.
Yep. Man, how did you make it through Scarum? So.
Don't worry, I had my inoculations.
Anyway, so the rogue crew are just like, dead vermin. Wasn't our work either. Looks like Gossam. Hey, how come the vermin don't bury their dead guys? And no, this is said out loud by the heroes. Just like, why don't they ever bury their slain comrades? Well, at least with this particular ship, no one even makes the effort.
Yeah, and in my notes, I just said, of course vermin don't bury their own. Doubly so for nameless mooks.
Yeah.
And we do get confirmation that we do know that Score knows his younger son is alive, and it's like, oh, good. Oh, and he's got over his hippie thing and is using sling stones. Oh, I'm so proud.
That's the point I forgot to bring up earlier. There's this discussion between Captain Rake and Score, and Score's like, yeah, my youngest just doesn't like using weapons. I think it's kind of like a phase. I don't like it. It's like, I don't think pacifism is something that you just kind of quote unquote get over. I mean, it remains to be seen in the last third of the book, but I don't know. It feels kind of dismissive to me that, somebody's like, I don't like doing this. And it's like, no, but you have to. It's just our way.
Yeah. I think the Swiffo's just sort of a free spirit, and he doesn't know what exactly to do with him.
It's just like, yeah, we should probably try to catch up. Chapter 24. Artwork is actually insects, like the kind of insects that like float on water, or like they're
Yeah, pond stripes.
Yeah, water beetles, in fact.
Yeah.
So this is where our bad guy just turned from stock to, oh god, because the ship is kind of stuck right now because one of the wheels got tied up in local plant life. And the first thing the vermin notice is that there is a giant pike down there that is basically a shark to them, just in the river.
It's a pike.
It's an actual pike.
Yep.
Yep.
Oh, I know what you're referencing now. So, yeah, it's like, what the heck? How are we gonna do this? And Rez is just like, hey, you random crewmate, the pike's probably gone. Go fix that, would you?
And actually, it was after this random crewmate was like, oh, ships with wheels are the worst. And so he's like, haha, I will get back at you for your...
Yeah, ships with wheels, dumb idea.
Well, go fix it then.
Me?
Yeah, you. You'll be fine. The pike's moved on, and the pike did not move on.
Oh.
But basically, yeah, this random vermin, Durgo, by the name. Ugh. With a name that close to Dirge, I'm not surprised.
Right.
But yes, it's basically as the pike is fighting his crew, his underling, Rez jumps down, giggling like a madman with his trident, and fights the pike and kills it. And okay, he just killed the pike with his trident, and this all, sending a crewmate to his death, and the crew realizes is bad enough. But that is the fortunes of war. Sometimes you're going to sacrifice soldiers, knowing that they're going to die for the greater conclusion of the mission. Except that this is where Razid goes from just kind of a token vermin to like an incredibly bad boss. He thinks this is the best joke he's ever heard, that this Durgo guy died basically at his order, taken by the pike, and he is laughing about it for hours after the fact.
Yep.
Even goes on to, it's like, okay, ship's cook has prepared the pike, cooked it up, and then he has the gall to make this utterly tasteless joke about how, there's probably going to be some of Durgo's flavor in the meat now, and it's like, read the room, my dude.
Yeah.
It's just, they're disgusted.
Your audio really broke up there, dude.
Sorry. What was the last thing you clearly heard?
That it was cooked special by the cook, and that was about it.
Okay. So the cook does it up special, and then Razid makes the extremely tasteless joke about how the pike meat now tastes probably somewhat like Durgo, which absolutely puts everybody else off the rest of their meal, and nobody wants any more of this pike.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, when you have a crew unsettled enough that they are turning down probably some of the better fish they've had in a long time, and it's vermin crew, they rarely would turn down food. That's saying something.
Right.
And not just, fish. This is like really nicely cooked fish.
Yeah, it specifically says it smells delicious.
That's something. And to the point that basically the entire crew are realizing like, oh, this guy's going to have every one of us killed. Mm-hmm. So there is no loyalty left that there was much in the first place. And even the seer is just like, dude, you done goofed. The rest of the crew is, if there was ever close to mutiny, it's now. And she passes it off on random Mook as the ringleader of the mutiny. It's not the first officer or the other one that she thinks she can trust the most. It's just this one guy, basically, to give Razid a body to kill.
And she does, like, some absolutely superb stage magic here, where she goes up to this random guy who's just hanging out with the two first officers, and she's like, well, you know how it is. The boss only wants to hear what he wants to hear, but, he seems like he's in a pretty good mood. Hey, he actually wanted you to go talk with him. Pat, why don't you go in there? Secretly reverse pickpocketing a dagger into the back of his belt after she just told Razid that, oh yeah, there's a guy with a knife that is trying to kill you.
I had a dream that you were lying with a knife in your back, and it was this specific guy that did it.
I mean, again, we know seers that genuinely have the talent and seers that are charlatans, and clearly this is the latter. But Razid's not the smartest boss either to not see through this.
Right.
Or maybe he just simply doesn't care. But, he kills the random Mook, and, well, mutiny's crushed. And even at this point, the first officer, the other guy, and Checker's just like, so he's insane, and as soon as we take Redwall, we're all killing him, right? Yeah. Oh, yeah. But we can't do anything until then, right? Yep.
Checker proves that she's only loyal to one thing, her survival.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And what? Molag, look, don't get me wrong. The best first officers do enforce the will of the captain, but speak for the crew. Molag has never spoken up for the needs of the crew, ever. Probably because it's what's kept him alive. But, this is a very dark moment for this book. Like, when you have a boss just this bad, that the officers are just like, we're killing him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll kill him, but after, we take the soft target that's totally not protected by a vengeful spirit. So
and not only are they like planning on backstabbing, it's one of those things. It's like, we no longer have any compunction against, what's essentially regicide.
Yep.
And for as much as we have encountered bad bosses and, their officers that don't like them and want to supplant them, they have a hard time with it. I fully believe that these characters are willing to sacrifice their lives if it means they can take out their own boss.
That's something when you have that many of your underlings that united against you.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I've seen this play out in real life once. I'm not going to say terribly much details, but I had already left by the time this happened. But a genuinely psychopathic manager of a former workplace of mine basically got told by HR to resign or be fired after all of her underlings collectively signed a letter to HR outlining just how bad this person was.
Wow.
Well knowing that if that could have backfired on them. Like, if it didn't work, said manager was going to use this to get rid of all of them. So that's where we are here. Chapter 25 begins with just a very generic artwork of just forest. There's nothing unique about it. And they're on the shortcut to Redwall. And, lizards and snakes and foxes, oh my. And they're told, hush, because sound may carry. And eventually they realized, hey, we're low on food. Could we send, 2 people out to forage? It's like, Yeah. Because I'm sure that won't have an issue.
Never.
My cliffhanger senses are tingling.
And because what comes on scene after the true groups bring back basically mushrooms and other local things, it's just like it is a troupe of Marlfox players. Or cosplayers, anyway.
Now I just picture them like being Marlfox fans and totally having like the shrine to the Marlfox's like pictures plastered up, and you're like, I'm gonna be just like a Marlfox.
So what I'm hearing is they're emo kids that think they're not posers.
Right. Exactly.
But it's not quite that. I only say they're Marlfox cosplayers because they're just conveniently 7 of them. Fine. But ultimately 7 show up. They all have crossbows. More on that in a moment. But it's just like, yeah. Don't try anything, you're going to kill us. You are walking through our territory, and you're stealing our food. So, quote, Lord of the Hinterwoods has spoken. And Ketrel Vane. And Ugo's just like, hey, this is all up Mossflower country. It's like, dude, Ugo, shut up.
Yeah.
Shut up. You are not at Redwall. You are a kid. Maybe don't antagonize people who with weapons.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't agree with Drogbug's action, but he basically straight up slaps Ugo for running his mouth. And
I don't feel go at this point. Not in the slightest. It's like, dude, you need to learn some lessons about the world.
Yeah.
And Castlevania's just like, well, you argued back. You disputed my territory and stole my food. So I'm going to kill you. It's a lesson for your compatriots. Sorry, kid. And Posey flings herself in front of Ugo. You can't just kill him. We'll just leave. And it's just like, no, he's going to die. Do you mind? And Posey she has to protect this other guy, and he's like, okay, kill both of you, and that's where cliffhanger ends.
Yep.
Resolve all the cliffhangers, please.
Consider yourself resolved. Yeah, the cliffhanger comes in tied at the end of a crossbow bolt, and it's like, okay, how are they going to get out of this one?
I know.
I know you do. So, next time on Dragon Ball Z. But, yeah, it's... don't get me wrong, I don't want Ugo to die as a character, but someone needs him to read him the Riot Act at this point.
At this point in the narrative in Eulalia, Orkwell had definitely grown up a bit and learned some lessons about life.
Yes.
We haven't seen here.
Even Scarum, as much as we hate him, and we do, generally was at least got at one point was basically shown, you done goofed.
Mm-hmm.
Other than these little moments, Ugo has not really been told, like, dude, what the heck?
There's something needs to happen, and I'm very afraid at this point that his maturation is going to come way too quickly and seem way too forced.
Yeah, it is. And if I'm going to be a predicting man right here, I don't think Jakes would kill Posey at this point, because clearly shipping. In the way he usually does, is just, but Drogbuk, yeah, he's probably dead when we pick back up. Or it'll be another disposable redshirt shrew. So overall, this felt more return to form. There wasn't some Zen missing here. But I'm not saying it's a good Redwall book by any means.
I don't think it's a bad Redwall book. I think there are enough differences that it can stand apart as its own thing, but there's also enough deviations from what we have come to expect that even people who are like, oh, it's too formulaic, could look at this and say, I kind of miss the formula. Because there are elements of the formula that work here and elements that don't, and they don't seem to be mixing properly. So we're left with something that's not quite disjointed, but not something jointed either.
Yeah, I feel at this point a little bit more attached to the otter characters than the hares. The hares just kind of seem a little bit generic to me, especially Nightfur. Migri had some good moments in this book, but like the rest of them, I don't know, they just seem kind of bland.
Yeah, Captain Rake Nightfur is basically what would happen if you took either Rackety Tam or Doogie Plum, turned them into a hare, and then put them in the Long Patrol.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's cool and all, but he's not the coolest. Sergeant Miggery is currently the hare that's the coolest, and he's basically Sergeant One Wheel 2.0.
Right.
I mean, Captain Nightfur is definitely entertaining, especially this, basically ninja rabbit. But we don't get terribly amount of character development here.
You called him a rabbit. Rude.
Hare. Sorry. But honestly, I'm kind of curious in where this is going to end. So.
I'll never tell.
Well, I don't mind. We'll get it organically.
Yes.
So. All that said, by the way, we don't have any new reviews, at least on iTunes, but I haven't gotten my way, because I don't want to sign up for a Spotify account. I have plenty of my own music, but that may be the only way I managed to look at our Spotify reviews. All I know is we're like 4.2 rated there.
Okay.
So.
Is that out of 5?
Bad.
I presume so, yeah.
Okay. I mean, for all intents and purposes, that's just slightly over 80%. That's not bad.
I mean, it's about where we are in Apple anyway. We still have 31 ratings and 2 are 1 star. Because, yeah. Who knows?
I cursed us.
It's fine. There's always going to be someone who dislikes us. Maybe it's all the puns.
Hey!
It couldn't be that.
I mean, I suppose if that is the reason, I will accept my punishment.
I knew you were going to say that.
I know, it's pretty obvious.
I probably teed you up for that, I admit.
Yeah. I have, unfortunately, for my coworkers, gotten much worse over the past couple of weeks. Our teen librarian has gotten to the point where if I make more than 2 in a row, picks up the phone, is like, hello, please. Probably because we've just been assigned workplace violence training. It's hilarious. Really good sense of humor. It's always fun when you have a coworker who will play along with your shenanigans.
Well, this was a long one, folks, and we appreciate you sticking us out. So you can find us on recorderonthewall.com. You can email us at rotwpod@gmail.com. And our main website is recorderonthewall.com.
We're on Reddit in the forum.
Yep.
Maybe.
Yeah, reach out there, perhaps.
At least it'd be better than the generic emails I get about, don't you want help with your podcast? No. I'm quite fine. I don't need your AI tools. I don't need to take a call from you. Oh, you can do so much better. We will do fine on our own.
pay me $500 and I can increase the number of views you get. Yeah, no, we don't need help. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Jeremy and I's original podcast, I gave Facebook $20 for advertising, and I mean, those of you who have never listened to it, and it's delisted now for a lot of reasons, but ultimately, yeah, I started getting listeners well outside the expected age and location range, and I don't know what 65-year-old grandmothers from South America are listening to an English podcast for on nerdy topics, but that's what Facebook was reporting back, and I'm like, yeah, this is a waste.
For what it's worth, I have a friend who lives down in Argentina, and while I don't think he speaks English particularly well, he understands it quite well and has actually recently gotten into listening to English audiobooks.
Well, there you go.
Nice.
So make of that what you will. Maybe there are some English understanding grandmothers who want to understand the intricacies of Power Rangers so that they can talk with their grandkids about it.
Yeah, maybe. All right, until next time, I am Pete.
I'm Matthias.
I'm Katie.
Hey, Katie, pass me that pie.
All right.